Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 4 of Sasaki to Miyano, or Sasaki and Miyano. Funimation calls it Sasaki and Miyano. The Japanese title is Sasaki to Miyano. Y'all know what I mean. But last episode was really good. Really good. Getting more into Sasaki. We met Oga. We got him involved in this. It's great. I love Hirano dyed his hair. I like blonde Hirano better. Dark-haired Hirano is fine, but I'm ready for him to bleach that back. So, but yeah, it was really good. And Sasaki, our poor boy, he really likes Miyano, and my dog decides to get the squeaky toy out now. So hopefully he'll put that down. But yeah, Sasaki, he really likes Miyano, and Miyano is maybe slowly piecing it together, especially after that train confession. I don't know. Maybe I decided to stop. But in any case, I'm really excited. Again, Seth, Mary, and September Scanlations, we're going to use their Scanlation version, mainly because it's a file, and I don't have to wait on Funimation to lag. Funimation and my computer and my internet connection, they're not friends. They're not BFFs at all. So the fact that I get to watch this on a file and there's no lag is really nice. And I liked the subtitles for the last episode, so I am recording a little bit ahead, so hopefully y'all like that too. But I have the Scanlation subtitles for this episode and then episode 5 as well when I get to it. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, this series is so cute. Honestly, I was gonna watch Attack on Titan tonight, and I sat down and I was really tired after working today, and I was like, no. I was like, my headspace, I am mentally not ready to sit down for 3 hours and just rack my brain. I'm not ready for that tonight. No. What I need tonight is my soda and some fluff. That's all. Sometimes when you get off work and you get home and you're like, do I want to watch something that I'm going to be mentally scarred by for the next 3 hours, or do I want to enjoy myself? I say that, I really like Attack on Titan, but sometimes you just need some wholesome fluff, and this is one of those times. So I'm doing Sasaki and Miyano instead. So with that being said, I'm ready to start, y'all. I hope y'all are too, but I'm excited. Let's see what our boy Sasaki is gonna do. They're technically second years now. The last episode ended with the about to be summer break, right? So they're about to be second years. Well, Miyano's about to be a second year, and Sasaki and Hirano are about to be third years. So I'm curious how that dynamic is going to change things, if it does. So let's find out, shall we? We're going to start episode 4 here, and there is an after credit scene. I've heard there's an after credit scene after episodes 4 and 5, so we shall see. But we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh, we need to talk about this episode, because there actually was a lot going on in this episode, more so than I thought. Oh, interesting. Oga's interesting. He's an interesting character. There's a couple lines of dialogue that it went by really quickly, and I wanted to go back to it. But, so Sasaki and Miyano. Miyano doesn't think he likes guys. He thinks he's always liked girls, and he thinks that there was a girl he liked. But my thing is, and maybe I'm looking at it from like a Western culture perspective more so than a Japanese perspective, but I'm like, Miyano, you can be bisexual. It's totally cool. There's lots of people that are bisexual, and if you like both, or maybe, you can be pansexual and just like people regardless of gender. And I think that's kind of more along the lines of what the manga he was reading was suggesting, that, oh, I don't like people based on if they're a guy or a girl. I just like them for you. That's more like a pansexual thing. Like, I don't care. Gender is not an option on the table. It's just, I like you. Here we are. So yeah, I was like, Miyano, you can like girls. It can be like a Mio in Seaside Stranger, where you can like girls, but you also like Sasaki. It's totally fine. I think Sasaki definitely likes guys, because Miyano brings up the point in this episode where he's like, well, Sasaki's really tall and handsome and stuff, so he must get lots of confessions. I'm like, I've not seen any girls in this series confess to him so far. And usually in an anime or something, they make a point of either the character has a girlfriend, is in a relationship, or is getting confessed to. And Sasaki, we've not seen girls at all coming up to him. So I wonder if that's like, everybody's just kind of like, they know, or they suspect, or... Because Oga seems to suspect that Sasaki is gay. That he's like, so you don't like guys, huh? Sasaki's really being obvious. Do you not get it? So I feel like Oga is going to want Sasaki to know, but he doesn't want to pry in other people's businesses. So he's probably just like, should probably talk to him then. Because I'm sure he's thinking, Sasaki really likes you and you don't like guys. Sasaki needs to find that out so he doesn't keep, hitting on you. But interesting. So yeah, this episode, we get a big passage in time. Again, so we went from February was where the last episode ended, and we're already to April. So we're getting into the second year. Like the first year's officially ended, we're getting into the second year. And I'm amazed at how much time they spend away from each other in this episode. Like they're away for nearly 2 months. And then they see each other again, right? But I love we start out with them. Oga's little, I need a gif of Oga just laughing. He's like, ha ha ha. He like laughs with his shoulders. Oga is a hot mess. He's a hot mess. Those blue tinged bangs. His shirt is like 3 buttons down. It's like an extra button unbuttoned. His tie is barely existent. His jacket and everything is just not tucked in at all. He's a hot mess. I want to meet his girlfriend. I want to see her so badly. I want to see her and Miyano like fangirl and fanboy out together over manga. I love I just imagine he's a Dragon Ball Z fan and then he discovers that she has like Vegeta and Goku Doujinshi and he's like, no! That's how I imagine it. I feel like that was like my first entry into Doujinshi was Dragon Ball Z, and that was a big thing. Amazing. So yeah, so hair inspection. You all should have dyed your hair. I guess that's a thing that they do in opening ceremonies. They want to inspect your hair. I honestly can't see Sasaki with anything but that red hair. I can't picture him in any other hair color. But his eyebrows are kind of red too, so I don't think it's dyed. I think maybe it's natural, right? His eyes also have that like hazel with purple tinge to it. It's really pretty. But yeah, Ogasawara. Who do you think we're celebrating for today? Like your blue bangs. And he's like, I'll just cover them up. My hair's black. It's fine. I love it. It's great. But yeah, and the art animation in this episode, when they do like little chibi versions of themselves, the art and animation in this series is so adorable. It's so cute. I really want to look at the manga now to see all this in the manga form because it's absolutely adorable. But then yeah, we have Sasaki lamenting. He's like, I've known Miyano for 6 months now, for half a year, and I only have 1 more year until I graduate. And then I like that he's thinking, he's like, how much longer can I hold out without saying anything? Am I going to be able to hold out an entire year? I've made it 6 months, but a year, that's twice as long. Can I do that? I don't think he can. And so then we cut to April, like a month later. So it's like, oh, you've only got 11 more months, Sasaki. You got this. I also like that at times, when you look at the background of this animation, it just looks like watercolor. Like it literally looks like they took watercolor paper to make the backgrounds. Because you can see even the texture of it, like with the cherry blossom trees. It's really pretty. It's very interesting. But yeah, so we've got the opening ceremony. Everybody's getting their classes, all that lined out. And then his classmate looks taller. Is it Kurosaga? He looks a little bit taller. And they're both, of course, in class B together. And Sasaki's in class 3D. Interesting. But yeah. And so then I like that little face that Miyano makes me, like looks around the corner. He looks very sly. Like he was expecting Sasaki to sneak up on him and scare him. And he didn't. And his friend's like, what's going on? He's like, nothing. I was just expecting him to come. And saying he's not here yet. So yeah. And then we find out that Sasaki works at a bakery, which makes perfect sense because he loves to bake. He likes sweet things. Him working at a bakery, it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. I really like that a lot. And that's when Miyano realizes, he's like, there's so much about him that I don't know. It's like Sasaki has gone out of his way to hang out with Miyano all the time and to get to know Miyano and his interests and to read the manga, that he's been wanting to know about Miyano, but Miyano's not really reciprocated it and tried to learn about him. Because right now, Sasaki's the one that's really into Miyano and wants to be in a relationship, and Miyano's been kind of, up until the train scene over the last few months, he's been kind of oblivious to it. So, makes sense, right? Makes a lot of sense. But yeah, he always does whatever I want to do. So we're basically only talking about manga. Yeah, he's basically just following. And I've been there. I relate a lot to Sasaki. That's the thing. There was someone that I liked in college, and I kind of did the Sasaki thing. Like I was trying to be all into their interests. And whenever they wanted to go to a record store or something, I always wanted to go with them. And I relate to Sasaki so much, knowing that kind of mentality of when you like somebody and you really want to get to know them, but you also want to be around them all the time because you want them to like you back. And I get that. It doesn't always work out, though. And I get fearful for Sasaki because I'm like, if Miyano doesn't come to terms and decide that he likes Sasaki that way, then it's going to be heartbreaking for Sasaki. And I'm like, I'm not ready for that. No, this is supposed to be a light, fluffy show. Don't you put this angst on us. No. But anyway, so Miyano's gonna have to come to terms with this. And that's when he says that Sasaki seems like a good listener and he'd probably be popular with the girls too. And it's like, yeah. And he's like, I bet he gets lots of confessions like Miyano got, but Miyano got the confession from Sasaki, not the other way around. But here's the thing. Again, we've not seen any girls really around Sasaki, so I don't know. I don't know if a lot of girls confess to him or not. Or if they already know that he's not into them, so they don't even try. And then Miyano says, what expression should I wear for that day that we meet up again? I'm so lost. So he's already thinking about it. He's like, how should I react to seeing him again for the first time? Because we've not seen each other since he made the confession. So should I act like chill? Should I act cool? Should I be standoffish? How should I react to this? And yeah. Then we get the OP, all that good stuff. And then we're back to them getting on the train together. And he's got the bag full of the manga and the light novels. And Sasaki's just totally fine with it. That's the thing. Sasaki is totally chill with just reading the books with him and everything. Like, nothing. He seems like anything that would be, again, like I said in the last couple reactions, Sasaki takes all this to heart of how people perceive him. And Sasaki just doesn't seem to care. He's like, it's fine. And then I love the excuse where Miyano's like, you're on the train awfully early. And Sasaki's like, oh, well, you know, when it gets rainy outside, the trains get crowded. So I wanted to beat the rush and get on the morning train so it, wasn't crowded on the way to school. But in his head, he's like, also, I know what time you get on the train. So I was doing this very intentionally. And then the seat opens up and Miyano gives the seat to him. Miyano makes him sit down. Which, again, this whole episode talks about the uke and the seme vibes of who's the seme and who's the uke. And I think that Sasaki is the bottom in this relationship. If they were to have one and it be sexual in any way, I would think Sasaki would be the bottom and Miyano would be the top in it. It would make sense, right? I think it would, especially there's like little moments like obviously the Kamedan like came up against the wall and Sasaki really seemed to like that. It was like, well, I liked this way more than I thought I would. But even in the moment where Miyano gives him the seat, he makes him sit down, right? So I thought that was another kind of hint that Miyano's like, no, I'll stand up, you sit down. One of those things, right? But then again, this series likes to play with gender and expectations of partners and positions, because then you have Sasaki when Miyano hurts his wrist from doing the Kabedan, then Sasaki's like, you should be careful, and he's all caring and stuff, which I guess that would go along with it too. But then he gets really protective of him against Oga, so it's like, that kind of flies in the face of it too. It kind of is like an alpha thing to do when he's like protective over Miyano against Oga, who is probably a Nuke too. We'll talk about him. Oh my gosh, Oga, hot mess Oga. But yeah, but this moment where he gives him the train seat and he's like, gotta respect my elders. Again, there's lots of things that go against conventions. Usually in BL series, the older character, the taller character, and we'll talk about that when Miyano's like, there's a high demand for short semis out there. It's like, okay, that's the traditional norm, right? But this series seems to be kind of expanding and twisting that all around and being more realistic with it, being like, well, that's not always the case, right? And Sasaki's like, oh, you had me sit down because I'm the older one. You want to sit on my lap? And just says it in front of all these people. And Miyano's like, no, what are you even saying? He's like, well, at least let me hold your bag. And Miyano's like, fine. Okay. And that's when he notices that it's really heavy. And he has the light novel, which makes sense. And then we have that moment of contact between them. Their fingers don't touch, but they the connectivity between the books and everything. I also commented on this. I noticed that this series likes to, like, you just see little things with the people around town and everything, just like for a few seconds, but it's really neat. I like the show involves other characters, even though they're just flat characters, there's always something going on. And so then there's this conversation, okay, about that Miyano's been having this conversation about BL series that he likes, right, and subconsciously is attracted to. And the conversation he's saying, I was trying to focus on it, but then at the same time we're getting Sasaki's thoughts and the other people are walking by. I've also noticed that throughout the series, even when other people walk by, in the first episode, when the people walked by, Miyano got really self-conscious and he was like, stepping on eggshells, being careful what he said. Sasaki does not care. So when the people walk by, if he was self-conscious, he would wait till they had passed until he pulled the cherry blossom out of Miyano's hair. He doesn't do that at all. They literally pass by as he's pulling the cherry blossom out. Like, to make a point that Sasaki does not care what the outside world thinks of what he does. And so that's interesting. But yeah, Miyano's conversation here, he says, and then the seme started crying. He always acted so cool around the uke. And this is when Sasaki zones out. He's not even paying attention to the conversation. He's just like, yeah. And so I feel like this conversation that Miyano's having with him is like a meta conversation for him and Sasaki, that he says, and then the seme started crying. He always acts so cool around the uke. But that could be also flipped. It could be Sasaki acting cool around Miyano, and then he starts crying and Miyano's like, oh my gosh, like it could be referring to that. But in moments like that, he could be really vulnerable. But, and so saying the seme started crying. So, and I wonder if that's the case, but I also wonder if Miyano is the seme and he's acting really, because Miyano says he likes dark-haired ukes. And I wonder if he projects that on himself, but I don't see Miyano as uke in this situation. We'll get to that. But I think regardless if it's the seme or uke conversation, Miyano thinks it's interesting when this tough character like breaks down and shows their vulnerability. And that could apply to Sasaki, because Sasaki seems like a cool character with like a really tough exterior, but on the inside, he's like an emotional wreck, right? And Miyano's kind of the same way too, so it's interesting. That personality gap just kills me. To see how people are different than their personalities portray them. Well, then he'll like Sasaki a lot, because Sasaki's not exactly like his personality. But yeah, these guys walk by, and that's when Sasaki makes the conscious decision to pull the petal out while they literally pass by. And it's interesting that he does that and doesn't seem to care at all. And then he just grips the petal like he's coveting it. Interesting. So yeah. And then we have this cat. And I like this cat as like two eye colors. So I don't know if that's a commentary on to Miyano being like, you can like both. You can have the best of both worlds, Miyano. You don't have to just stick with one or the other. And then yeah, these guys and their cardigans just hanging around. I want to be part of that club. But just seeing school life at this all-boys school. Again, establishing it as an all-boys school. There's no girls here. So if he was getting confessions, that's the thing. If Sasaki was getting confessions, it would be from across the street from the co-ed school. And we don't get to see that. So that makes sense. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, so then we cut to, and them all playing catch. It's like Sato over here. But yeah, so Sasaki is, in his new classroom, or Miyano's in his new classroom, and Sasaki goes to stalk him, find out where to go at, and he returns the manga. And then they have this conversation. They have this interesting conversation about the manga. And he's like, gee, thanks. He's like, do you have a minute to chat? And he's like, sure. And so as they're walking, he's like, I wanted to ask you about it. He's like, in the manga, which one was supposed to be the uke? And Miyano's like, He's like, there weren't any bedroom scenes, so I couldn't tell. So there's no sex scenes in this particular manga, and so Sasaki's trying to figure out, well, who's the top and who's the bottom? There's no way of telling directly, right? And then Miyano, he's like, which do you think it was? And Sasaki's like, well, you prefer black-haired ukes, don't you? So I guess it's the black-haired one. And I like that Miyano's like, don't use my biases to help make your decisions. But having said that, and he's like, oh, am I wrong? He's like, there is no right and wrong. The author didn't specify after all. And I think that's the big thing with this whole series. And I think it's like a commentary on the series as a whole, is that there is no specification. Like, we can debate all day long who would be the top and the bottom in this relationship, but I don't think that's what matters. What matters is these two characters love each other, and whatever ends up happening ends up happening. I think that's the big point, is that we can't stereotype people and niche them like you do in a story. So that's so interesting. I really like it. He's like, but Miyano admits, he's like, I did think the black-haired one was, though, if I had to give my personal opinion. And he's like, but that wasn't based on the color of his hair, and he has all the sparkles around his face. It's not based on his hair color. No. I just really love manly ukes is all. So that could be interesting too, because Sasaki's a softie, but that moment where he like holds him against the window when he thinks Ogasawara is trying to like flirt with him, that was kind of manly. So maybe if Sasaki is uke, he would be somebody that Miyano would like. Or, I mean, you could look at it that way, or you could look at it as if Miyano himself is the uke, then he's projecting that he's like, I like being like a tough, manly guy, and I like projecting that. Because here's the thing, and we'll talk about this later with the girl in the girl clothes, but the idea of how Miyano, how he sees himself, and his self-image versus how he feels about himself. We'll talk about that, because I want to wait till we get to that thing with the girl in the dress-up. But it could be that Miyano wants to view himself as a manly uke. He's like, he wants to see himself more in a more masculine light than how other people project on him. That could be it. So it's either he likes, manly ukes like Sasaki could be, because we have the whole scene with him protecting him against the window, or he sees himself like a manly uke and wants to project that masculinity. It could be either way. Could be both, And then, but that's when Sasaki says, oh, you mean like Hirano being a manly uke? And I'm like, I don't really see Hirano as a manly uke, which is interesting. And he's like, quit picking up on things like that. So I guess they do think he's manly as an uke. Interesting. But then Miyano says, and he says, Hirano's pretty tall though. Could he not be a seme? And Miyano says, even in BL, someone with his body type could totally pass for an uke. And again, they're talking about this as just these guys walk by. And the guy's having a conversation saying, not great, they wound up breaking up. Yikes, seriously. He can't just keep a girl, huh? Like, they're just having this conversation about relationships as they walk by these two. And that's when, because this guy can't watch where he's going, he literally runs straight into Miyano, like, dude, you didn't see this boy standing right here? And he's like, oh, sorry. And that's the moment that we have the kabedan, like that moment where he pushes up against him, and Sasaki's like, oh my God. And Miyano's like, oh gee, I'm sorry, that startled me. And Sasaki's like, huh. But that's when he knows, he's like, are you okay? Is your wrist fine? And he grabs the jacket sleeve. He doesn't grab his actual wrist. He just grabs the jacket sleeve. There's no physical contact. But him looking down at the wrist and having that soft look in his eyes, I was like, what is that look, sir? What is that look? And the shapes are everywhere. The colors, and seeing himself reflected in Sasaki's eyes. The confession. Yeah, it reminded me of the confession scene. And he got all blushy. He's like, oh, be careful with your hands for today. He's like, oh, sure. Sure. He's like, I gotta run. Bye. And then, yeah, what he did was he ran to get out of there, because he's like, shit, I can't be here the rest of the day. Day's ruined. But yeah. And Miyano's saying, why did I think about that confession scene with that moment? So yeah. And then we go back to Miyano getting home. Yeah. And Miyano thinks, he's like, well, I was able to talk normal. And he's got a lot of books. He has like all the dictionaries, but he has like a whole bookshelf of manga. So boy does have a lot of manga. But he's like, well, I was able to talk normally to Sasaki. It's fine. We had a normal conversation. The whole confession thing on the train didn't get brought up. It was great. But, and then I absolutely love that Miyano, it's something I would do. Because I would do what Miyano just did. Like, you know, you see people that dramatically flop themselves onto the bed. They're like, ugh, and they just flop themselves in the bed. I would not do that. I would do exactly what Miyano did. I would carefully lower myself onto the bed and then just be like, blah. I absolutely can totally relate to what he just did. Mm-hmm. But him saying the way he acted with me, that I guess he really does like me like that. Yeah, so Miyano knows. Miyano knows that Sasaki likes him. It's not just a joke. It's not just, you know, a phrasing. He does like him. And then Miyano's like, well, I still prefer girls. Even back in middle school. And as he's drawing the pillow like closer to him, getting ready to throw it, and we see middle school Miyano. And he's so cute. And then here's the thing. This girl, the girl he used to like. So this girl he used to like in middle school, she says, let's cross-dress. You'll look great in girls' clothes. So it sounds like she didn't like him the same way. It sounds like he liked her, but she didn't like him back. And here's the thing. This is what I wanted to bring up earlier, is that I think with Miyano's self-image, because Miyano, back in episode 1, it was noted that he is a shorter, more feminine appearing guy. Like, he has more androgynous features. He's just more, like, dainty in his bone structure and everything. And all the other guys at the school, they comment about it. And they commented about it back in episode 1. And so I feel like Miyano has kind of like a complex there. Like, he's built up. He's like, I don't like being called feminine. I don't like being referred to as a girl. Like, Miyano doesn't like that. And so this girl that he used to like, saying, let's cross-dress, you'll look great in girls' clothes, Miyano didn't like that. And it shows his heartbreaking. He's like, heck no. I don't want to do that. No. And then the girl says, come on, you'll look amazing with her like asymmetrical haircut. It'll make a great painting. And it sounds like she's an artist. And he's like, I'm so not into that. Yeah, and he has like the black, like the blue heart and everything. Like, he gets mad about it. He doesn't like people saying that he's girly. He doesn't like that. And he's so gloomy about it. So it makes sense, I think, why he likes manly uke characters, because he's like, he wants to project that masculinity on himself. He doesn't like being seen as feminine because he doesn't feel that way. He's like, no, I'm a guy. And I don't like when people project that onto me. And so that makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see that with Miyano. And his attitude, he's not like cutesy or shy. I mean, he's quiet, but he doesn't project that. So it's interesting. He says, it's weird. I've never really been bothered by it before. But with Senpai saying it in that voice, with that look, it suddenly seems so real. Yeah, no, it was real. He does really feel that way about you. And then him tossing the pillow at the bookshelf. And then him saying, oh my God, wait, was he serious when he asked if I wanted to try with him? Yeah, he was. I know he meant it to sound suggestive, but I was sure he was just teasing. I think it's half and half. I think he was halfway teasing in the moment, but also he was serious. Like, no, really, I would, totally. I mean, if you want to. Like, I feel like it was like, I feel like Sasaki was saying, we don't have to kiss, but if you're totally down, I am. You know, one of those scenarios. You don't want to put him on the spot or pressure him, but he's into it. And Miyano's like, I was sure. And then he's like, sure, I love BL. But here's the thing. And I love this. He says, I love BL. But I think for Miyano, it's more the message about love in general. It's not just that it's two boys that like each other is why what he's suggesting is he doesn't just read BL because he's gay. That's not why he reads it. No, he reads it because of the themes of love, and like a lot of BL series, it's not just a homosexual love or love between two people of the same gender. It's like love that's transcendent beyond gender. And so he pulls out the manga of the guy that says, I don't care if you're a boy or a girl, right? I fell for you because you're you. And he's like reaching over, he's like, get it through your thick skull. And he reaches over and grabs the guy. And I feel like that's like the whole message of this series is that, and Miyano just reading that, it's like, it doesn't matter whether you're a guy or a girl. If you like somebody, you like somebody. And he's like, I like you for you. Can't you get it? And so Maybe it's the same way with Sasaki. Sasaki just really likes Miyano, or maybe Sasaki has never thought about it. Maybe Sasaki doesn't know if he's gay or if he just likes Miyano and he's just like, I don't know, I just like you. And then Miyano thinking, calm down. Senpai is a guy, a man, not cute in the slightest. He's like, oh, so that's why you were curled up into a ball. And he's like, wait, what? He says, maybe he's not cute. Maybe he's not cute. Maybe he's though I've always thought he was more the cool type. Yeah, so he's not, I agree. Sasaki's not cute. He is cool, but there's like a softness to him that is very apparent. And Miyano's like, and I'm a guy too. Wait, and I love the giant lightning bolts in the blue background. I love that shot of Miyano. With my body type, does that mean I'd be the uke? And I feel like he doesn't see himself as that. He's like, no. There is a high demand for short semeis. So Miyano views himself as a seme. He does not view himself as an uke. But I think Sasaki would be totally down to be an uke. I think Sasaki's totally fine with that because there is a vulnerability to him. And he says, in some respects, shorter semeis actually have become a classic trope. So he's like, it's totally fine. It's a classic trope. I could totally be that. And then we get the scene of them like on top of each other. And it's just showing what that would be like. And there's the glow. There's like the big glow and the sheen and the light coming through the window. And he's like, senpai. And I love that the animation is slightly different where Sasaki's eyes are a little bit bigger and his face is a little bit rounder. And he looks a little bit more softer in his design. It's interesting. And he's like, Miyano. He's like, I told you that's not what I mean. And I love this mini freak out that he has where he's just burying his head and shaking it. He's like, God, why do I have to make everything a BL? Because you like it. I feel like that's such a meta comment because I feel like I watch so many sports animes or series that, but I'm sorry, there's a lot of sports anime that I watch. There is a reason that Haikyuu has so many people with BL pairings from that series. It's there. It's there. There's so much subtext, right? Senpai, forgive me. He's like, I didn't want to think of you in that light, but you did. It's too late now. Can't go back. I love this show a lot. And so then we get a few hours earlier. And I love that Oga gets the text message from Sasaki. And Hirano's like, was he not feeling better? He's like, all he said was, I can't even, I'm going home. I relate so much to Sasaki. Sasaki may be my spirit anime character. He might be. I can't even. And he's just like so blushy. Oh my gosh, dude, I feel you. And he's like, with that distance, I can't even with that distance. He's like, it's just, everything's closing in. And he's like, I'm not going to make it a year. There's no way. Not going to happen. Oh my God. And I feel like it's just the crossing the traffic signal. Like, we're about to cross the tracks. We're on the train. We can't go back now, right? It's so good though. And then there's the thing with the paper. So we get to Oga. We get down to Oga and Miyano's like, I'll go get this paper. And I do feel like at times the animation makes him look a little bit different. Like he's grown up a little bit. He is a second year. And interesting. So Tashiro. Okay, so Tashiro is the one with the blonde hair. Tashiro. I'm sure you all have told me this by now. I've just watched ahead. So Tashiro is the blonde streaks guy who's with the guy with the glasses. Very cute. Okay, so Tashiro. Nice. So then we go down here to Oga. Oga and being on the phone with his girlfriend. And Miyano's looking for the paper. And then, so I wanted to get this conversation, right? So Oga's like, I told you, it's not that you're a BL fangirl. It's just... Oi! He's like, damn it, she hung up on me. And so he has the purple lollipop. Again, could Oga be bisexual? I don't know. But boy is a hot mess. He is. He really is. And I'm like, honey, we need to talk about you. And he's like, it's the Fudanshi. And I like Miyano. Miyano has a very, like, seductive face in this. He's like, it's Miyano, Ogasawara senpai. He has a very seductive face in this frame. It's odd, right? It's very odd. He's like, don't just call me the Fudanshi. And he's like, what are you doing out here? And he's like, the wind blew my printout away. And he's like, oh, this paper by my foot? This? Here you go. So, yeah. And that's when Miyano's like, so what's up? And then, yeah, Miyano says he seemed like a scary person at first, but he's easy to talk to. Yeah, no, he's fine. He's like, was that your girlfriend on the phone? And then the depressed Miyano, Oga is a diva. Oga is a hot mess diva. Yeah. And Miyano's like, oh, buddy, I stepped on a landmine. He's like, I've been fighting with her for 2 months about this. And here's the thing. I'm like, you're fighting with her about her love of BL? Okay. I went over to her place the other day thinking we could make up. Then as soon as her mom let me inside, I love that he frames this as this argument is the worst possible thing on earth. Like, this is a world-shattering argument. Can you believe it? My girlfriend, love of my life. And he has the bags under his eyes. Like, I went to her house and I overheard her on the phone and saying crap like bad boy ukes are the best. But honestly, I think Oga might be a bad boy uke. He might be. He has the delinquent appearance, like with the color through his bangs, his disheveled look, like his untucked shirt. He has the disheveled, like, delinquent appearance like a bad boy, but he's not. He's like the emotional one. So I'm like, he would totally be the uke in a relationship. He would totally be the bottom in a relationship. Absolutely. There's no way with that personality. It's like, I left without even seeing her. He's too dramatic. He's so dramatic. He would be the bottom. Absolutely. Our fight's still going strong. And Miyano's like, oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. And he's like, sounds like she's the type to raise her voice when she's excited about something. She's definitely wearing the pants in this relationship, if y'all know what I mean. It sounds like she is the dominant one in this. And I want her to meet Miyano so bad. And he's like, well, you like BL, don't you? And I love that he just gets a stare with this little round chibi face. And he's like, I've got something I want to ask you. with the light and everything. Do I look like an uke to you? He's like, it's not like I want to become one. It's just if my girlfriend wants to date one, I want to, be what she wants, what she's attracted to. If she looks at me and sees an uke, I want her to focus on how I'm her boyfriend instead. So he's like, I don't want her to be in a relationship with me just because I fit some stereotype that she likes. He's like, I want her to like me for the person I am, not just because I look like this thing she's a fan of. But I don't know what part of me might be uke-ish to her. And I'm like, I can think of a few things. So I can't make her see me as her boyfriend. I wanted to make sure that I didn't, hit her fangasm triggers. Oh, God, he's a mess. So I read a mountain of those books that she's got. And I love these, he's like, I wanted to know what was going to trigger her. So I went to her house and read her manga. But there are references to slime and bad boys. I'm like, is she reading Omegaverse stuff? I don't have a damn clue what to do. Was she reading Sex Pistols? Was she reading Love Pistols? I think she might be a Love Pistols fan. Oh my God. Is Oga like Terashima? Oh my God. He could be. I don't know what she wants. I love that it's blurred and there's green slime in the background and blood maybe. Oh my God. And his depressed, I need to see the manga of this now. His depressed form just shrinking in the distance. And Miyano's like, what the heck kind of manga is she reading? This guy's a piece of work himself. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. He's like, I don't know what kind of books your girlfriend reads, but if she's dating you, then I'm sure she loves you as you. Yeah, and that goes back to the manga he said. It was Of course she likes BL as well, but the person she's in love with is a separate matter. Yeah. So Miyano's like, I love all these BL series. I love these stories. But when it comes to actual romance, I don't just categorize it in the same way as I do the things I read. And that's a very realistic way of looking at it, right? Like I read lots of BL, but it's not that you have to review romantic relationships in the same vein, right? Mm-hmm. You just happen to have a lot in common with her favorite genre. And he doesn't specifically say what, but I'm confident she loves you as her boyfriend senpai. And he's like, what do you think? With the flowers? Yeah, for being a straight guy, this guy, And then, this is the part I missed. Miyano says, I'll just leave out the part about there being some people who do transfer their love of BL onto their significant others. We'll just leave that out because Miyano's not met her yet, so he doesn't want to assume, right? And so then he's like, so how is it for you? You said you didn't think about Sasaki and so this is where he brings it up. He's like, before you said you didn't think about Sasaki and BL type contexts. So I'm guessing he doesn't fit any of the stereotypes because of how you feel about him. So he's flipping it right back on Miyano. He's like, okay, fine. He's like, my girlfriend likes me for me, not because of a BL stereotype. Okay, so you like Sasaki, not because he fits into any of those stereotypes too, right? And then Miyano's like, what? He's like, that's not like that at all. We aren't like that. And that look by Ogasawara, Oga's like, wait, what? Oga's face, he's like, so wait, you aren't into guys? Oga's like, this whole time, everybody in our class has been thinking you two got a thing. You're not into dudes? And Miyano's like, no, I'm not. And Oga's like, sure. Huh. And then Oga, you can tell he's like, well, whatever. It's none of my business. But Oga is Sasaki's friend. And I'm like, I'm wondering if it's going to hit the fan and Oga's going to bring it up. If he notices that Sasaki is really getting attached to Miyano and he's like, hey, dude, Miyano said he wasn't into guys. So you need to back off. Because you don't need to. I wonder if Oga's going to say something because Oga says it's not any of his business, but I'm like, I also just think he doesn't want to hurt his friend. So I wonder if he's going to tell Hirano and Hirano's going to break the news to Sasaki, or if Hirano's going to confront Miyano about it and be like, oh, he's not into guys. Okay. But yeah, Oga's like, interesting. But you helped me out with your advice. And so I figured he was going to give him some advice too. But instead he says he wants his girlfriend to meet up with him when we've made up. And Miyano's like, oh, cool, we can talk about manga together and she can show me what she's into. And that's when Sasaki starts walking by with the garbage. And so Miyano has this conversation with Oga about how tall he is. And he says he's 183 centimeters now, which is like 6 foot, right? So he's like 6 foot tall. And he's like, but I wasn't even 170 my first year. So he got a big growth spurt. He's like, I shot up to over 180 my second year. So you've still got hope. So Oga in the moment is trying to be like, Oga's saying like, don't worry. I grew like 13 centimeters over the course of a year. You could still get taller, Miyano. Don't give up yet. And Miyano's like, really? Cool. And then Sasaki notices and Oga says, it might have been in my genes though. And Sasaki's like, who's he talking to? And Oga's like, it could have been my genes, so it might be just genetics. And that's when Oga says, but you're just the right height to cuddle now. And that's a very, okay, for Oga to say that, being a heterosexual guy, being like, you're just the right height to cuddle now. I was like, who says that? And that again goes back to that preconceived notion that everybody views Miyano in like with a more feminine gaze, and Miyano doesn't like that. He doesn't like being seen as feminine. And so in that moment, he can't see Oga's face. He doesn't know it's Oga, but he sees this hand reaching towards Miyano. And that was a weird moment because Miyano's like, wait, what are you doing? That was a weird moment when Oga's like, oh, you're the right height to cuddle right now. And it seemed like he was going to like bring him in. And Miyano's like, eh? So yeah, it was an odd moment. And that's when Sasaki's like, oh, hell nah. And him being all possessive. And Miyano's like, wait, what? And in that moment, Oga's like, oh, hey. And Sasaki looking over with the gaze, with that dominant gaze, that glare. And then he's like, oh, it's just you, Oga. I love when they just bring up the humor. It's like they get in chibi form. What's up? And Oga's like, I could ask you the same thing. That was terrifying. Oh, he's like, sorry, Miyano. Miyano's like, it's fine. You scared me to death, but it's fine. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And yeah, I would be in the same boat as Miyano. I would have been terrified in that moment. And then Oga's like, well, that was weird, but I was just asking for advice because, you know, my girlfriend and everything. And Saki, and here's the thing, Saki says, oh, your girlfriend, you're going to make up with her. Like, he doesn't view Oga as threatening in any way because he has a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And then Oga's like, we'll talk it over. And Saki's like, good luck, stay away from my dude. And then that's when Miyano gets called back and he leaves. And then he says he hopes things work out for him and his girlfriend to Oga. And says bye. And Sasaki's like, bye. And Oga's like, thanks. Interesting. And then that's when Oga says, God, he's way too obvious. Yeah, that whole protecting him against the window thing. Again, Sasaki gets possessive of Miyano. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, I'm going to head back. Sorry about that weirdness. And Oga doesn't say anything. But I'm just waiting for it to I'm waiting for it to come back. I'm waiting for that line to come back. And it almost seems like Miyano maybe regrets saying that to Oga. Because then he has this moment where he's like lamenting about it. And saying, okay. He was like, so wait, are you into guys? And he's like, no. And Miyano's like, I read it all the time in manga. Like, you see the scenario happen in BL all the time where the main character doesn't think he's into guys and then he meets a guy and he's like, but I'm not like that at all. And then he's like, I had a girl that I liked in middle school. That girl that one of them dresses up as another girl. He's like, so I'm not like that. But I'm not like that. But he likes Sasaki. When I think about Sasaki, I get all confused. And it hurts. Mm-hmm. I thought I wasn't like that. But maybe I am. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think Miyano's just so confused right now and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to process these feelings. Yeah, he's like, what about Sasaki Senpai? Oh, don't worry. Sasaki's on board. He's on board the bandwagon. Don't you worry. The ball's in your court, friend. And then, yeah, all of a sudden I feel so confused. And I hate that for Miyano. I do. I hate that for Miyano because Miyano, he's struggling to come to grips with all of this. And Sasaki seems pretty sure what Sasaki's confused about is when to confess, right? And I love this moment with him and Hirano because it's, you know, people do this all the time. I'm like I hate this. So I feel for Hirano in this moment. But, you know, sometimes when you see somebody and they want you to talk to them, they want you to ask how they're doing, and you're just trying to do your work, and they come up and they're like, well, oh, and they're fishing. They're wanting you to ask, be like, what's wrong? Like they want you to, that is exactly what Sasaki is doing in this moment. He's like, he puts his head down on the desk and Hirano's like, and Sasaki's like, couldn't hold myself back. He's like, I can't stop. He's like, this is becoming a problem. And then when he does the whole, and Hirano's like, you scared me. What's up? What's wrong? And he's like, oh, nothing. And he's just wistfully looking out the window. He's like, what do we have to do next? Like, just staring out wistfully. And Hirano's like, here, we gotta go to math next. Get your wits about you. He's like, what am I gonna do? Oh my god. Yep. And then we have the after credit scene, right? I love this after credit scene too. I love this after credit scene. And then, yeah, Hirano's like, you're fighting again. What about now? He's like, she told you she doesn't think about you in a BL way, right? I love the Oga's like, she took my favorite manga. And she made it BL! God, he's such a diva. And Hirano's like, I see. Yep. Okay. Can we go now? He's like, I'm coming with you. And then Miyano's like, a doujinshi, huh? like, you found out. Yeah, Oga, honey. Oga, you ain't straight. There's no way. There's no way. Nope. You might swing both ways, but oh my god, what a diva. What a diva. And maybe he is. He's just dramatic. Maybe he does just like girls. He's just super dramatic. Oh my gosh, but this episode was wonderful. This has been one of my favorites so far. I really, really liked it. One of my favorites. There's lots to think about. I'm sure this discussion went on a lot longer than usual, but I love this series. I love it. It's building up the relationship between these two. It's getting crazy. I love it. And I don't know where it's going to from here, but I'm really excited. So I hope you all enjoyed this reaction. This episode was a lot of fun. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. But yeah, I'm excited. I guess we'll see what will happen next. But yeah, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 5, another after credit scene with that episode of Sasaki and Miyano. Bye.